Imagine a world where your wealth isn't measured by the paper in your wallet, the numbers in your bank account, or the cold gold in your vault. Instead, imagine a world where your very thoughts, your memories, and the strength of your mind are the only currency that matters. This is the terrifying and beautiful reality of a place that exists just beyond the veil of our own, the Land of Zykola. Our journey begins in the heart of Egypt, in a small, dust-settled village called Al-Bahofrik. Here, we meet Arthur, a 28-year-old man who carries a burden of rejection that has become his shadow. Arthur is a graduate of the Faculty of Commerce, but in his village, he is known primarily for his persistent, heartbreaking love for a woman named Elena. Elena's father is a man of iron and war, a veteran with standards that feel impossible to meet. 8 times Arthur has stood on their porch, his heart pounding against his ribs, only to be cast out with the same soul-crushing questions. What have you done in your life? What makes you different from any other man who walks this earth? Driven to the absolute brink of his sanity after that 8th rejection, Arthur finds himself haunted by the whispers of the past. He remembers the stories his grandfather, old Thomas, used to tell him in the quiet of the night, lit only by a flickering candle. Legends of Forik's Cellar, mysterious, ancient basement hidden within an abandoned, decaying house that the villagers say is a gateway to another world. In a moment of devastating clarity, Arthur's grandfather reveals a secret that changes everything. Arthur's parents didn't die in a common accident. They disappeared into that very cellar years ago, seeking a destiny they never returned from. Now, fueled by a mixture of grief, longing, and a desperate need to prove his worth, Arthur decides to follow their ghosts. He doesn't care about the risk. He only wants a story worth telling. He steps into the damp, suffocating darkness of the cellar, clutching an ancient, cryptic book called the Forik script. As Arthur crawls through the narrow, lightless tunnels, the air begins to shift. The smell of damp earth and rot is replaced by something metallic, something like ozone and ancient stone. He eventually breaks through a heavy, rotting wooden barrier and emerges not into another basement, but into a vast, bruising twilight under a sky that feels unnaturally close. He stands before the colossal obsidian gates of the Land of Zykola, a city that feels both futuristic and ancient, shimmering with a cold blue luminescence. At first glance, Zykola is breathtaking. The streets are pristine. The architecture is majestic, with towers reaching like jagged glass into the sky. And the people move with a vibrant, almost frantic energy. He witnesses a public square where a man is brought before a giant, silent executioner. The man hasn't committed a crime of violence. He is being slaughtered because his mind has run dry. He is poor. This is Arthur's introduction to the brutal, absolute law of Zykola. Money is a ghost here. People trade in intelligence units. Every loaf of bread you consume, every drop of water that touches your lips, and every hour of sleep you take is paid for with a piece of your intellect. Your very soul is quantified, and in Zykola, the price of survival is your mind. Arthur, A stranger with a high starting balance of curiosity and untouched memory, quickly becomes an object of intense interest to the locals. He is guided by Julian, a local who becomes his only anchor in this strange, logic-driven world, teaching him how to navigate the social hierarchies based on IQ. He eventually meets the brilliant Dr. Seraphina, a physician of immense intellect, a woman who climbed from the depths of slavery to freedom through the sheer power of her brilliant mind. As Arthur tries to navigate this parasitic society, he realizes that to stay alive, he must work in the thought quarries, putting massive stones in exchange for a mere 7 units a day, barely enough to sustain his basic need. But the expenses of Zykola are high, and the intelligence tax is an unforgiving predator that eats away at his reserves. Arthur begins to feel the physical and mental erosion of his own identity. It starts with small, precious things. He forgets the color of the front door in Al-Bahofrik, the specific scent of the fields after a summer rain. He even begins to struggle to hold onto the image of Elena's face in his dreams. He is becoming what the locals call a mind fade, the term Zykola uses for those who have spent so much of their intellect just to survive that they are nothing but hollow shells walking through a cold, blue nightmare. The mystery deepens when Arthur finds a trail left by his father, buried in the city's archive, and even purchased the very book Arthur used to find the cellar. His search leads him to the northern district, a lawless wasteland of wine and shadows where people trade their last shreds of dignity and memory for a few more units of existence. There, in a dimly lit tavern, he finds his long-lost brother, Victor. But there is no joyful reunion. Victor is a man consumed by bitterness and madness, revealing that he killed their father in a fit of rage years ago. Believing the old man was a fool for wasting their family's lives on a book about a cellar, Arthur realizes his family's legacy is a chain of obsession, murder, and tragedy. He is now trapped in a city that wants to harvest his brain, with no escape until the great gates open, a singular event that only happens once every year. The tension of the story reaches a fever pitch as the day of Zykola approaches. The governor's wife has given birth, and the ancient, cruel laws of the land demand a celebratory sacrifice to balance the city's collective intellect. Arthur, having spent most of his units to acquire information about his father and help Julian's family, is identified as one of the 3 poorest individuals in the entire land. He is arrested by the silent guards, stripped of his dignity, and thrown into a lightless stone cell to await the blade of the executioner. Doctor, realizing the depth of her love for Arthur, man who carries a spark of raw human emotion that Zykola's cold logic cannot compute, decides to commit the ultimate act of treason in a secret final meeting in his cell, while the crowds outside cheer for the coming slaughter. She transfers the majority of her own intelligence units to him through a single, heart-wrenching kiss. She saves his life, but in doing so, she marks herself as a criminal and drains her own brilliant mind. Sacrificing her freedom for his dot, Arthur survives the selection because he is no longer considered poor. But his safety is an illusion. He must flee before the guards realize the source of his sudden surge in intellect. The final act is a frantic, terrifying race through the tunnels of the cellar as the gates of Zykola begin to groan shut. Arthur pushes his body and what remains of his mind to their absolute limits, crawling through the dark, suffocating stone, guided only by the distant, haunting hope of the morning call to prayer back in Egypt. When he finally breaks through to the surface of Al-Bahofrik, he is shivering, exhausted, and forever changed by the horrors he witnessed. He has the story he always wanted. He has done the impossible. He wins Elena's hand, and the village celebrates him as a hero who returned from the grave. But the ending is far from a simple fairy tale. As Arthur sits with his bride on their wedding night, he looks up at the vast Egyptian sky and finds one specific star there, one he named Seraphina. He has the status he fought for, but he lives with the haunting knowledge that a part of his soul will always belong to that cold, blue city where intelligence is a currency and love is the only thing that can never truly be quantified.